Hello loves and welcome back to Aislingrose channel. Today I'm going to be reading you guys a supposedly true story that happened on Halloween. Because when I'm uploading this video, it is Halloween, so happy Halloween guys. I hope you are having an amazing time. Please do be careful because it is Halloween again. So be careful because a lot of creepy, scary, and terrifying things do happen on this night. Just stay safe. I don't want anything to happen to my little weirdos tonight. And make sure to get a lot of candy for me. Also, let me know what you're dressing up for as Halloween because I want to know. So I was looking on the internet and I found this supposedly true story, and I am going to read it for you guys. I read it myself a little bit earlier. Usually I like to read these guys for the first time with you, but this one I just read through it and it's a good one, guys. So here is the story. It starts off with, over 40 years ago, Anne and her friend were having a peaceful and enjoyable Halloween night until the unexplained moaning and laughing began. 4 decades later, Anne can recall that night of terror as if it happened yesterday. Some people believe that October 31st, Halloween, or All Hallows Eve, is a time when the space that separates our reality from the dimension of ghosts and supernatural is at its thinnest. That is why this time of year is given to the obsession and experience with spirits, hauntings, and unnatural creatures, and other elements that remain unexplained in our reality. It started on Halloween Day. In 1973, when Anne was 16, her younger sister, dad, and she had just moved into a new house that Anne's dad built in a remote area near Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. I don't know if I said that correctly. In this area, there was only one other house, a few lots away from them, when they moved in on Halloween. Anne's dad had to leave town for a little while and gave her sister and Anne a key with the instructions to move their stuff in. None of Anne's dad's belongings were there yet, except for some furniture. Anne got ready to go to a costume party with her older sister, who didn't live with them at the time. She picked Anne up at 7 p.m. just as it began to snow. I wish it would snow here in Florida on Halloween. That would be so much nicer than being in the heat. Anne met a friend at the party named Jay and was enjoying his company so much that she decided to continue the conversation with him at her house. They got there at 1:30 a.m. just after realizing they didn't win the costume contest because Anne dressed up as a witch. Anne and her sister had their own domain downstairs, as the house was huge with 2 kitchens and more. Jay and Anne were sitting downstairs in the large living room that had windows all around, and they were right at ground level. Where Anne and Jay were sitting, they could see the driveway and the front door. They had on one lamp, and the light at the front door was shining and illuminating the driveway and the room. It was about 2:30 a.m., and they were sitting on a love seat chatting away. At no time did they discuss anything Halloween related like the supernatural or the paranormal. Suddenly they heard a voice. First, Anne noticed the tone of the voice was like no other she had ever heard before. Then Anne noticed that the voice was vocalizing. To her absolute horror, this voice was moaning in a pathetic and horrible way, filled with loud pain and suffering. Anne remembers marveling at the tone of the voice. It was so different and seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then, just when she thought she couldn't take it anymore, it went from this horrible moan to this insane maniacal laughter. It was absolutely horrifying. Then it went back down to a moan, back to a laugh, then back to a moan again before stopping. Jay and Anne looked at each other wide-eyed and mouths open. "It has to be a Halloween trick someone is playing on us," said Anne. "Yeah," Jay replied hesitantly. "Let's search around and see if we can find what's going on." Anne suggested that they search around and see if they could find anyone and figure out what's going on. Jay agreed, so they both went toward the hallway. Jay took the upstairs to the foyer, and Anne continued down the hallway to her little sister's room. Anne opened her door and noticed that her sister was truly asleep. Anne woke her up anyway and asked if she knew anything about what was going on or if she heard it. Anne's sister was irritated with her for waking her up, but said she heard nothing, which was mystifying considering how loud it was. Anne went back to the hallway toward the living room as Jay was coming down the stairs. He was as white as a sheet. "I heard it up there," he said. "No way," Anne replied. "I wasn't that far away. I should have heard it too," said Anne. Neither of them found anything to explain it. Anne and Jay went back to the living room and sat again on the love seat. They talked about what happened and affirmed that they both experienced the same thing. Then they changed the subject and tried to forget about it when it happened again. This time, though, the sounds seemed to permeate their very souls. Anne and Jay suddenly felt very sad. When the moaning and laughter stopped this time, they both knew this wasn't a joke of any kind. But they weren't ready to admit it to each other. "Okay," said Anne, "the search is on. We find out who the prankster is or else die trying." Anne and Jay searched every inch of that house. Outside, no one had come near the house in hours. Anne could tell by the new layer of undisturbed snow. They spent 45 minutes looking at ovens, freezers, lamps, under every table in the house, under every couch, and in every couch, around every chair and corner, and ultimately throughout every inch of that property. They found nothing and no one. Anne knew of no one who would even think of such a Halloween prank, let alone who could execute it with such professionalism. Anne described the sound as the most frightening voice she had ever heard, and if by some horrible misfortune she was to hear it again, she swears her heart would stop instantly. Yet, her Halloween horror wasn't over yet. Anne and Jay finished their search and went back downstairs. They started to discuss the possibility that something supernatural was happening, but then they brushed it off. In some kind of crazy delusion, they wanted to believe that it was really just a joke somehow. This illusion would soon be crushed. The eerie voice began again, only this time it was nothing like the other times. Now it permeated them completely. Anne and Jay were both completely filled with feelings of despair, hopelessness, helplessness, and pointlessness. Anne struggled to say anything, but couldn't manage it. It felt pointless to think at all. Tears were streaming from their eyes. They both experienced the sensation of their skin crawling. Anne truly believes that she and Jay were in the presence of pure evil. When she and Jay snapped out of it, they looked at each other and saw the tears on their faces when their eyes met. Anne knew that Jay knew exactly what she experienced, and vice versa. They were also very convinced that this was no prank. By now, it was close to 4 a.m., and they were literally exhausted. Jay refused to leave Anne and her sister there alone, so he slept on the couch and Anne went to her room. Anne spent a night of terror and fear. She was worried about going near the bedroom door because of the image of a creature waiting to kill her on the other side. So scary to think of. To open up your door and to see a creature that is there to kill you is absolutely terrifying. She felt this was not coming from her mind though, but rather it was coming to her from somewhere else. Anne laid awake until the sun was up and heard Jay awake in the living room. It was a horrifying experience that she did not forget and remembers like it was yesterday. And that is the end of the story. I can't even imagine what I would do in that situation. And when I first read that story, I automatically thought of what time was it for them. And when they said it was almost 4 a.m., that meant that it was still 3 a.m. when all of that was happening. And 3 a.m. is usually the time when the veil is the thinnest between our world and the paranormal, along with it also being Halloween, which is also supposedly the time when the veil is the thinnest. So Halloween at 3 a.m., not a really good combination in my opinion, but nonetheless that was still a really creepy story, and if they felt like they were in the presence of pure evil, they probably were. I just can't even imagine what would happen if they stayed where they were. I know that they were still in the same house, but if they stayed where they were, I can't even imagine what would happen to them and what that spirit or entity was planning to do to them. That's just completely terrifying. I thought this was a pretty good story to end off on for Halloween. If you guys did enjoy this video, then please give me a thumbs up. That would really help me and my channel. And do hit that subscribe and notification button so you never miss when I upload a video. If you would like for me to keep doing videos like this, even past Halloween and past October, please do let me know down in the comments. And this is just something that I love to do in my spare time, so why not do it with you guys if you would like to see it. So please do let me know that. I love you all so much. Thank you for joining my weird little family, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!